Shadowing. Rental prices soar as number of available properties dips in an all-day low. What we've seen over the past year is that the number of property available for rental has fallen by another 7.1%. As you said, it's a record low, but if you look at where the changes are happening, it's largely the major capital cities, so that number of property available for renting Sydney, it's down about 12.5% from years ago. If you look at Melbourne, it's down more than 20%. So we got this mismatch between the number of people wanting to rent a property and the number of rental properties available, and that's why rent has risen so significantly over the last 12 months. So tell us about the factors behind that. What is called this? Well, supply is big one. We haven't built a lot of new houses over the last few years, and most of what we have built has been for owner-occupiers. It has been purchased by investors where it's not built to rent. And then on the demand side of things, during the pandemic, we saw the average household size shrink. So that creates more demand for houses, and of course now we are up in the report, and of the past year we've had about 5,000, 60,000 people coming to Australia from overseas. Most of them people don't own property, so it's exacerbating the challenge for renters. What's the outlook with this? The outlook, unfortunately, not great. There's a lot of housing under construction, but as I say, most of them is for owner-occupiers, not investor. We are starting to see some more investors coming into market, but it's not really offsetting the investors that are exiting. The rate of population growth forecast to slow from here, but still being well above pre-pandemic level. So unfortunately, it's still gonna be the top renter market, and it's going to top for renters. I would say I think rent property won't grow as rapidly over the next 12 months as they have over past month 12, but still like to rise. And can you tell us a bit more about the city and regional city divide? Yeah, sure. So during the pandemic, a lot of people wanted to move regionally, and there was because lifestyle and people didn't know how long lockdown were going to stick around, and supply couldn't respond really quickly, so rent increases really dramatically in a lot of those regional markets. Fast forward today, people that have moved regionally are coming back. Others are deciding they want to stay there. They're buying their own property, so that easing some of those renter pressures. Whereas the capital city, we've now got a really rampant rate of population growth at the moment. Most of those people are going into Sydney or Melbourne, if not the Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide, and that's creating more competition. Plus the fact that people are moved regionally coming back. You know, kids get older, want to leave mom and dad's house, and looking for rentals as well. So you got this big swing from very strong demands regionally to very strong demands in the capital city, which is unlikely to really slow down over the next year. Yeah, this makes really difficult situation for a lot of people. It obviously has social effect as well. Now, correction will take time are short-term solutions that should be considered. I think the best short-term solution is trying to get more people to buy their own home. Now that's harder because interest rates got gone up, 400 basis point. They might go up to a billion next week. Borrowing capacity have fallen the back of that, so it is hard to make that shift out of home or renting to home ownership. But federal governments does have some policy there, like share equity scheme that could be attractive. The other way you could try and do things to make more attractive for investors to come into the market, in saying that I don't think politically anyone's going to choose that option. So we need to build a lot more houses but in the short term, it's about trying to more investors into the market or trying to get more people buying their first home and therefore freeing up their supply and building more home. Obviously, that has a good effect long term, but it's the short term that can have unintentional consequences as well, can it? Well, can I admit we don't have really capacity to build the number of homes we need. We've got huge amount of infrastructure and construction going on that take people away from building home to go and build road and rails, things like this. So we really need the big investments in capacity to build more homes. But even for developer and construction companies, their finance it's the highest it's been a decade given where interest rates are, and getting pre-sales is increasingly challenging as well because you don't have as many buyers for brand new property as you did when interest rates are 2%. So ahead of any of those short-term solutions, if they would come and with this situation, so many renters being unavailable to people, what are the trends we are seeing in terms of what people are doing to cope with this? Well, the reaction is going to be people are going to have to either move further away from where they would like to live, which is obviously an ideal outcome, or it's going to be get rationalized in their size. So that means if they're renting a house, maybe moving to unit. If they're renting a unit, maybe consider going back to share houses. And we did see a lot of share houses breaking up during the pandemic. One of the response to this higher rent is likely to that we've seen more people going into share housing in order to save on the cost of living. Last, what we've seen over the past year is that number of property available for rent has fallen by another 7.1%. And as you said, it's a record low, but look at where the change has happening. It's largely the major capital cities, so the number of property available for rent in Sydney, it's down about 12.5% from years ago. If we're looking at Melbourne, it's down more than 20%. So we've got this match between the number of people wanting to rent a property and the number of rental property available, and that's why rental has risen so significantly over the last 12 months. Now tell us about the factor behind that. What causes this? Well, supply is a big one, and we haven't built a lot of new houses over the last few years, and most of what we have built has been for owner-occupiers. It has been purchased by investors or is not built to rent. And at the demand side of things, during the pandemic, we saw the average house size shrink. So that created more demands for houses. And of course, now we're upon the borders, and over the past year, we have about 560,000 people coming to Australia from overseas. Most of those people do not own property, so it's exacerbating the challenges for renters. What's the outlook with this? The outlook's unfortunately not great. There is a lot of losing housing construction, but I say most of that is for owner-occupiers, not investors. We're starting to see some more investors coming into market, but it's not really offsetting the investors that are exiting. And the population growth is forecast to slow from here, but still be well above pre-pandemic levels. So unfortunately, it isn't going to be tight letting market, and it's going to tough over renters. I would say that I think rent property won't grow as rapidly over the next 2 months as they have over past 12 months, but they're still likely to rise. And can you tell us a bit more about the city and regional cities divide? Yeah, sure. So during the pandemic, a lot of people wanted to move regionally, and that was because of lifestyle, and people didn't know how long lockdown were going to stick around, and supply couldn't respond really quickly, so rent increased really dramatically in a lot of those regional markets. Fast forward today, People that have moved recently are coming back, others are deciding they want to stay there and they buy their own property, so that's easing some of those rental pressure. Whereas the capital city, we've now got a really immense rate of population growth at the moment. Most of people are going into Sydney or Melbourne, and if not the Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide, and that's creating more competition. Plus the fact that people are moving recently are coming back. Kids get older, wanted to leave mom and dad's house, and they are looking for rentals as well. You've got this big swing from very strong demand recently to not very strong demands in the capital city, which is unlikely to really slow down over next year. Yeah, this makes a really difficult situation for a lot of people. It obviously has social effects as well. Now, correction will take time are the short-term solutions that should be considered. I think the best short-term solution is trying to get more people to buy their own home. Now that's harder because interest rates have going up, 400 basis points. They might go to again next week. Borrowing capacity has fallen on the back of that, so it is hard to make the shifts out of renting to home ownership. But federal government does have some policy there, like share equity scheme that could be attractive. The other way you could try to do things is to make more attractive for investors to come into the market, and saying that I don't think politically anyone's going to choose that option. So we need to build a lot more houses, but in the short term, it's about trying to attract more investors into the market, or trying to get more people buying their first home, and therefore filling up the supply and building more home. Obviously, that has a good effect long term, but it's a short term that can have unintentional consequences as well. Can it? We don't have really capacity to build the number of homes we need. We've got huge amount of infrastructure construction going on that take people away from building home to go and build road and rail and things like this. So we really need big investments in the capacity to build more homes. But even for developers and construction company, their finance is the highest it's been a decade, given where investor rates are. Getting pre-sales increasingly challenging as well, because you don't have as many buyers for brand new property as you did when interest rates were 2%. So how do any of those short-term solutions, if they would come, and with this situation of so many rentals being unavailable to people, what are the trends we are seeing in terms of people are doing to cope with this? Well, the reaction is going to be people are going to have either move further away from where they would like to live, which is obviously an ideal outcome, or it's going to be have to rationalize on their side. So that means if you're renting a house, maybe moving into unit. If you're renting a unit, maybe consider going back to share houses. And we did see a lot of share houses break up during the pandemic. One of the responses to this higher rent is likely to be we've seen more people going into share house in order to save the cost of renting.